along today. Hopefully there'll be a few more people come and attend. Today we have Joe Best, who's our hospital team coordinator. Joe's been to sort of our session sort of before. That was about 2 years ago. Joe came and did a talk, which was really popular. Hospital service is a very sort of valuable part of our service. And it's a bridge between sort of health and social care professionals and the carers who are very often trying to navigate sort of the stressful and often uncharted territories of becoming a carer and dealing sort of like with the health service and what's going to happen when their loved one is sort of like coming out of hospital and hospital discharge. Um, and they're quite complex, some of the sort of situations that they have to deal with. Fortunately, I hear a lot through our sort of Teams chat, and there are some real sort of tough cases that they deal with on that team. So, um, yeah, I've got a lot of respect for the hospital team and all they do. So, and then we'll have Julia Hunt, who's the social prescriber for the Dolphins practice at Hayward Heath, and she's going to be having a conversation with Caroline about the work they're actually doing at the practice there. So, Joe, can I hand it over to you? Would that be okay?
Thank you, Mike. So, since I did speak a couple of years ago, as with everything, there's been quite a lot of changes. Changes within the NHS, changes within the hospital team. And the one thing that stays constant is that we are trying our very best to support carers through their hospital journey, to improve communication between the NHS and the carer, and to identify and support the carer to find the right support when they leave the hospital and are going home. For that purpose, we've combined our hospital service team and our support at home after hospital so that it flows more, so that when we are supporting people within the hospital, we can then guide them into our support at home after hospital, where they will get up to 6 weeks of phone calls, which may be something like, okay, you've been, the patient has come home. Is there anything in particular you're struggling with? We can perhaps, if they say, yes, we're having problems with the catheter or so on, we can give them a telephone number for the person they should be speaking to about that. So the actual people that we see within the hospital have become more complex. So whereas before we did some nice light and fluffy cases where we just say, oh yes, here's some telephone numbers and, how are things going? And those sort of conversations are becoming less common. And the more common conversations are panic. Or I don't know what to do, or I don't know who to talk to, or people aren't listening to me, or what have you. So we do more light advocacy within the hospital where we would say to them, okay, we understand your confusion. This is the department you should be speaking to sort that out. And it's just guiding the carer to speak to the people they should be speaking to. The ward staff are there to look after the patient's medical needs. But when you're starting to look at discharge from hospital, it will be physios, occupational therapy, the discharge team and the social services team that will become more relevant. So we spend less time on site than we did when I last spoke to you. We are now a smaller team, though it's slowly expanding again. So we have to work smart. We have to make sure that actually the NHS colleagues that we work with are more aware of picking up where a carer may be having challenges and making that referral to us. we aren't in the position that we were before, where we went round the wards more and spotted it for ourselves. We now are having to, and say it is working smart, we have to train the NHS staff to recognise that, look, when that person goes home, their family is going to struggle. They're going to need some support, and therefore the referral comes to us. We've got them reasonably well trained at St Richard's. The other hospitals, some yes, some not quite so much, where when somebody does need support, they will go onto our website and make a professional referral on the hospital referral, and they will give us the consent. They will give us the telephone number, address, email if possible, and fill in as much detail as possible saying this is the carer we're referring to you and this is why we feel they could do with some support. And that has proved really successful in that now they come from that straight to carer support. An admin lady sends them all to the appropriate queues, and the hospital queues we try, because it's a problem in real time, we try to get to them very quickly. If we refer to our home after hospital service, we've got a 3-day window to contact that carer and say, right, we've had your referral. We'll take a few details now, and then we'll put you on our list of somebody to call you. And that calls usually reasonably quickly. Then that person can have up to 6 weeks of calls that will just hopefully get them over those challenges they're going to face. Common challenges now are things that we go in trends. We're having quite a lot of dementia where their behaviour is maybe becoming a little violent or aggressive, and the carer is struggling with that. We are having more sort of Parkinson's, more specific illnesses, strokes, where it's becoming so obvious that we have to work in partnership with the other agencies, with the GP surgeries, with One Call, etc., that we are making sure that these people are getting as much appropriate support as possible. At the same time as all that appropriate support seems to be shrinking, it's unfortunate that certain projects will get set up and be very beneficial, and then their funding finishes and everybody else is left to sort of pick up, okay, they may be gone, but here's somebody you could talk to. And I think the trend also is heading towards more and more responsibility being put on the carer to plan, to say, okay, who have I got in my family that can do a bit of support for me? Who can, if I need to go to a medical appointment of my own, who in the family could come and sit with the cared for person? More and more responsibility is being put on the carer. One of the things that has been really interesting that, the people that we can refer to is there is now our coaching service, which helps people identify how they can help themselves. And that is something that, following their support at home after hospital, that can get referred on to. The Energy Project, the Safe and Well, there's so many things that can be passed on to, but what we're dealing with in the hospital is the immediate concern, and that is what happens when this person leaves the hospital, where they're watched by a whole ward, and goes home where there might be one elderly lady looking after somebody that a whole ward's been looking after. So, okay, how do we make sure she's getting all the support she needs? It's becoming more and more complex, more and more wearying in making sure that actually people plan. We need people to plan and say, okay, my father, mother, husband, wife, whatever, are going into hospital. What am I going to do about when they come out? What am I going to do about whatever? The hospital service is increasingly doing more funding for supporting that. We have a household fund that has been used to maybe replace white goods. We have paid taxis for people to be able to get to a hospital and visit because they maybe for health reasons can't take public transport. The funding has been just made such a difference to the carers. I feel that say the way to go is if we can get them as quickly as possible when they come into the hospital, then we can start encouraging them to plan for when the discharge happens. A major change since I spoke to you all last time was that there's a new system been put into the hospitals in West Sussex, and that includes East Surrey Hospital and Royal County. And it's called the Transfer of Care Hub. Now, if somebody's on a ward, the ward staff, the OTs, the physios all make a note on their records of what the situation is, how they're doing, and that then all that information goes along to the Transfer of Care Hub, and they never see the patient, never see the carer, but they sit, look at all the facts they've been given, and say, okay, that person is going to go home with a 3 times a day package of care. We'll get all this sorted. They are the ones that make the plan for discharge, guided by the discharge coordinators and the social workers, but it's the information that's put on the sheet that Let's Talk make that decision. And so what became very apparent is it's really important. They can only make decisions based on the information they've been given. If they're not given all the information, then they may make the wrong decision and somebody gets discharged inappropriately. So again, this is where carer support has been very handy, because if there are concerns that a carer has that they haven't told the hospital, we can do a bit of light mediation there, light liaison work, and say to the hospital, obviously with the carer's consent, did you know that this carer has severe health difficulties of their own and they're not going to cope with that, or some such other bit of information. So we are constantly encouraging the carers to let the ward know what all their challenges are going to be, so that it can be appropriately recorded on the information that goes to the Transfer of Care Hub. There's lots going on within the NHS hospitals, where they're trying to get their figures sorted, trying to get people discharged quicker. And that again has a knock-on effect on carers, because they think, oh, it's all right. And also they think, oh, they'll be discharged from hospital, but then they'll get 6 weeks free care. But that stopped a long time ago. They get up to 10 days
Hi,
care.
Joe. Helen's got a question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Hi, just a quick one about the Transfer of Care Hub. Is that something that's available across the board, or is it only in certain hospitals?
It's in all the acute hospitals at the moment. So it would be St Richard's, Worthing, Princess Royal, East Surrey, and Royal Sussex County.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
It's settled in. It really has. It was very challenging for us at the beginning, because we'd be getting all these phone calls going, nobody can tell me what's happening, because the answer they were getting in the hospital is, I don't know, it's with TOC, which is the hub. So they'd sent their papers off and they were waiting for the transfer of care hub to make a decision. And so when a carer or patient said, right, what's happening? The answer they were getting is, I don't know. But that was a while ago. And so it has evolved now to where the people using this have the confidence to say, well, this has been the recommendation and we're just waiting for confirmation. So at least they're able to share more information with the carer or the patient. So it definitely has improved, but it was one of those big changes that they felt needed to be done and to make it more efficient. But the teething problems had a knock-on effect for the people using the system. It has fortunately started settling in well, and it's not such a problem anymore. But it's still occasionally a bit of a challenge, because if people aren't given the opportunity to plan, how do they know what they have to plan for? The other thing, and this is what's very relevant for all of you, is the hospital can take ages to send the medical notes to the GP. So we get carers ringing us up and saying, oh, this has gone wrong, that's gone wrong, what do we do? And if it's the appropriate answer, we are saying, well, have you spoken to your GP surgery about that? A good example is people are on medication that they're on in the hospital, and when they're discharged, they're given that medication, but there may be medication that they were on going into hospital that they now have no recent prescription for, so they have to go back to the GP to get their medication reviewed and make sure that they're on the right medication. So it would be quite common that people are sent home with enough medication for a couple of days, but what they're sent home from the hospital is only what they were on in the hospital. So the hospital may have suspended certain medications because they're being observed, because they didn't need it while they were on whatever support they're in the hospital. Once they leave the hospital, actually, that all needs catching up with and reviewing, and that is very much between the patient and the GP. And so there's that gap between the information coming from the hospital and going to the GP can cause carers quite a lot of concern. Karen has her hand up now.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
So normally what happens at our surgery is we receive the discharge summary for all the patients that have been discharged from hospital. And if there's any medication queries or changes, then our pharmacy team would look at that and adjust their medication accordingly, and obviously issue anything else that needs to be issued for them. But I don't know how it works across other surgeries, but that's what we do at Balltree.
Okay, where is Balltree? Sorry, remind me which area?
Lancing.
Lancing. Okay, so it'd be Worthing or Brighton Hospital
Yeah,
mostly?
yeah.
Okay.
And then normally what happens is part of my role is if somebody has got a frailty score and they've been discharged from hospital, so if they're mild frailty, vulnerable and upwards, I would give them a call by myself to do a review. So their needs would be sort of assessed, whether or not they needed further on referrals or GP call or anything like that. That would be part of my role to sort of ascertain that for them as well.
That sounds such a good service. How long is it between the carer being discharged, the patient being discharged from the hospital to you getting those
They're normally
requirements?
quite quick. I mean, it depends on the hospital, but normally they will have a discharge call within 3 days. That's our aim, to do that once they're home. Yeah.
Excellent. No, that sounds really good. So, I mean, and again, as you mentioned, it depends on the hospital, or it depends.
Yeah.
It's a human factor, isn't it? But that
We have a
sounds
very similar.
ideal.
we have a very similar thing at the Meadows. So we get the discharge summary. The admin team, when they get it in, highlights any medication things that gets passed through to the pharmacy team, and then myself and my colleague on the care coordinating team would then do a post-discharge review with the patient. So just to make sure that nothing's been. So it sounds like almost an identical process. So and it works. It works quite well.
Good. And I'm wondering, the ones that ring us up and sort of go into a panic and we say, oh, have you spoken to your GP? I'm wondering if their sort of communication with the GP surgery is great. It's if some people need to be the people that ring you up and have that conversation or let you know that they would like that conversation rather than just waiting to see if somebody happens to get in touch with them. But those two, I mean, that sounds perfect. That's sort of going really well. And I said, we will continue to say to people who ring us with a concern about these things, please take the responsibility of just letting your GP surgery know that you have a concern.
Yeah.
Joe from Ada Health Partnership said that they've got the same sort of system there as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's really good to hear that actually the medical notes are coming through in reasonable time. But is there anybody where they don't have that happening?
I think sometimes there can be some confusion where I know I see discharge summaries come through and they've actually been discharged into sort of rehab, things like that, where it's not on the summary it's not always clear, but majority of the time it's good.
Yeah, it's the same here. I mean, we usually get the discharge from the hospital to say discharged, and then you realise, well, you have to look onto the TPP notes to see if they've actually been, discharged home or if they're still being dealt with. So usually they've gone to rehab. It's the rehab discharges that we don't get regularly. So we monitor those. Once we know they're in rehab, we have to sort of manually review those regularly because quite often they don't tell us when they've been discharged.
No. Okay. So, I mean, a question that just popped into my head. What percentage of people or GP surgeries in the county have people that are working as efficiently as you are? That would be...
I think it would depend on the size of the surgery. So, I mean, you've got some surgeries that are, enormous and have a large patient volume. And you've then got smaller surgeries, which will have a lower patient volume. So, I mean, that will have an impact on being able to sort of monitor things that effectively, plus the age demographic, etc., for the area. But I think a lot of places work as similarly where possible. So
yeah. Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it's just looking at the chat, and Jo Stenning from Ada Health Partnership, she's just asked a question saying, can you confirm when 6 weeks care reduced to 10 days? She just wondered if you can sort of know.
Oh, heavens. I'd have to look into that. I think it's sort of probably a couple of years ago, maybe more. What they do now is it's all tied in. I mean, there are some things that will be 6 weeks. It depends on the health issues that are being discharged. But generally, Home First, what they do is they send them home with a package of care, and for up to 10 days, that then has a review during that 10 days by a social worker who will either put an ongoing package of care in supported by social services, or they will, if the person is above threshold, say, here is information on how to self-fund your package of care. If there are health issues that require longer, and it's also what sort of support's going to be happening at home. So there may still be up to 6 weeks if it's physio, or re-enablement, or trying to sort of get people safe at home, that can be longer. But the sort of automatic, here we go, we're going to send you home with a package of care which will be reviewed, is now up to 10 days. So different circumstances will make it vary slightly, but the standard now is up to 10 days. And I think it's been in place for at least 2 years, certainly no less. Does that answer the question okay? It's what we do. We have connections with, we look at the community re-enablement. We look at it's this home first thing that is the up to 10 days, where they're sort of looking to see, they know somebody will need a bit of support when they go home, but they're going to review that, and the carers who are providing the care during that time will say, do you know, these people aren't going to manage when we finish, in which case the review will then put whatever the appropriate ongoing package of care into place. So I suppose it's up to 10 days while they assess it.
Joe, do you think it's sort of more and more that people are needing needing longer sort of care packages sort of when they come out of hospital now, or you know, beyond the 6 week, 10 days, 6 weeks, or do you sort of not tend to sort of get involved sort of after that?
No, we aren't in any control of that, because it's
No.
social services and NHS, whatever, that are looking at the health needs and support needs. What we are getting is, we're getting more dementia, where we're having to support people who are supporting people who are more challenging at home, where it's really making it difficult for them to go out, to shop, to socialize, to see other people. They're becoming quite isolated because they're stuck indoors with somebody who's not able to go out with them. It's making sure that they know what services are there, like Vida, who can do a sitting service. We're getting more people I'm seeing using their emergency respite with, because we have our carer emergency contact card. And one of the advised one contact on that is the Vida for their emergency respite service. So if a carer falls off the pavement into A&E, they can call their emergency contact card, who will get in touch with whoever's on that card. So it can be a friend or neighbour, or it could be Vida, and say, I need someone to go in and check if the cared for is okay, because I'm not there. And at the hospital, I've noticed more people using that. So especially as, you know, if you get two older people looking after each other, then the carer's health becomes more and more of an issue. So the answer for me, the answer is increased partnership work, increased good communication. It's doing what we're doing. It's talking, working out what the challenges are, working out what works well, doing that in the hospital with the hospital staff, with the carers, with the other agencies that are involved at the hospital. So we are in partnership with Age UK for the support at home after hospital. We do work with Guild Care for the Worthing area. They have some fabulous facilities going on at the moment. Lots of things around socializing, trying to cut down on isolation. And the good thing about being registered with somebody like Carer Support West Sussex is you don't have to do it on your own. You can pick up a phone and go, I'm struggling with this, and we'll signpost, we'll refer on, but we all need to be talking to each other. So lots and lots of partnership work. I'm working at the moment because I'm sort of St. Richard's area with the social workers, seeing how we can improve what they offer to the carers. And we're doing a little sort of just experiment to see if we communicate better, what difference does that make to the carer? And yeah, partnership work, lots of it. Julia. You're on mute.
Sorry,
There we go.
forgot to take my mic off. Better not do that later. Something that we see quite a lot, I think, is like an elderly couple. They're caring for each other. Someone's in the hospital. They get discharged, and they say, "No, we'll manage fine. We're okay to go home." Get home, and then it's a disaster. So they call the GP practice, and you know, what can we really do but link people or offer some support? I mean, really, it's oftentimes we've even seen some extreme examples where it's a complete failed discharge. The person should never have even been allowed to come home medically because they're not stable. So, and that can be a real crisis situation, and people call in this crisis. And where do you call? You call your GP practice. So yeah, we can make, you know, one call and urgent community response referrals, but it doesn't always happen right away and things. I think you said the TOC, is it the transfer of care hub? Will that prevent some of that? Because it happens more frequently than I'd like to think it would happen.
Yes, I think the whole NHS thing at the moment about trying to free up beds for people who really need them for emergency medical treatment has had a knock-on effect on, as you say, maybe elderly couple, if they think, oh, right, he's medically managed. And they say if somebody's deemed as independent, then they can go home. So independent means even if it's with a Zimmer frame, if you can walk from the bed to the toilet and back, you're independent. And so that is one of the criteria of sending people home. So one of our carer support remits is to try and avoid readmissions, and so this is where we're trying, again, back to communication, we're trying to get the carers, if there's something they know they would struggle with when they go home, tell the ward, tell the OTs, tell everybody, and say, I'm going to struggle with that, so that can be looked at before they're discharged.
Bless a lot of our older patients, but they just, you know, keep calm and carry on attitude, and they think they can cope, and I mean, they don't realize that they can't cope until it hits you. So
you're so right. And so this is where I would advocate the supported home after hospital, because up to 1 month from they've been discharged from hospital, they can be referred to the supported home after hospital. Now we do this in partnership with Age UK, because Age UK provide volunteers that we can set up a volunteer that might just pop in once a week, bit of light cleaning or sitting and talking to people. It's the usual rules. They can't use hoovers and they can't do this and that and the other, but it's a face there that's going to recognize if they're struggling. The other thing is
up to 1 month. When you say up to 1 month afterwards, so does that mean they could be home 2 weeks, and then we can still refer in? No,
they can be referred from the moment they're discharged.
But if they don't realize they have the need, and then 2 weeks later they realize they can be referred in then as well.
Everybody is offered.
Okay.
Everybody who's being discharged, we will say, you know, would you like our supported home after hospital? If we think if it's a younger, fitter person and they're going home and there's no complication, we're not going to offer that. Okay. But if it's an elderly couple and they may struggle, we'll say, why don't we offer you our supported home after hospital service? and then somebody will phone them in a week, and somebody will phone them a week afterwards. So when it goes wrong, we're being recorded. I was just about to make it a more florid description, but no. When everything goes wrong for them and they're hitting that crisis, at least we know there's somebody ringing them that they can say, oh, no, this has gone right. And we have, on occasion, when we're doing those checkup calls or support at home after hospital, we have said, right, ring 999.
Yeah.
On occasion, we have said ring 111. We've it's or if it's it may be ring one call and keep ringing them until somebody actually responds to you. We have had some very difficult situations when we ring for a checkup and they tell us everything's crashing and we say, who have you called? And they go, oh, nobody. The other thing we do sometimes is a carer will call carer support and say, I've got a medical emergency. And we go, right, please put the phone down and ring 999. So yes, obviously it everybody's an individual, but this is the joy and why we have combined our hospital service and support at home after hospital, because that way we are more likely to pick up that they're having that blip a week, 2 weeks or whatever afterwards, where they thought, oh yeah, we'll cope, but hadn't realised that the person they're caring for had declined during that time and that their caring role has changed. Strokes are a difficult one because you might get, this is just an imaginary person, but say you might get a lady whose big strapping husband looked after her, did everything, made sure everything was okay, and she was quite pampered. And then big strapping husband has a stroke and he becomes somebody who is incredibly needy of support, who maybe can't string a sentence together, paralyzed on one side, will become someone that really needs a lot of care. And as soon as the hospital have done whatever, and the stroke unit is very good, but once they've done what they can for him, he will go home. And you have a person who has unexpectedly, because a stroke is instant, who will unexpectedly be supporting somebody who actually supported them previously, and that is such a shock to the system. And so we do quite a lot of support around people who for people who's cared for has had a stroke. Now there's the Stroke Association, there's all sorts of things that can help, but it's helping that person just come to the realization that they are now the person caring for their partner. So again, when they're in hospital, we can support, but when they go home, we've got the home after hospital, which can give them a phone call once a week and say, okay, you know, what are your main issues? What do we need to look at? We can also, if they're really struggling or financially or just with their caring role, we can put them forward for a carer's assessment, because Carer Support West Sussex hold the agreement to do the carer assessments. And so it may result in a direct payment that can help them with financial issues, getting alterations done to the house, so on. So it's the good thing about carer support is I'm speaking to you about the hospital team, but we've got the hospital team with the after hospital service. We've got our carers assessments. We've got our locality teams. We've got Mike and Caroline doing what they do and keeping you all in touch. So it's, and again, there we come back to the partnership work. If we can't sort a problem, we know a man who can. So it's that communication. If we all keep talking to each other and saying, do you know, what do I do with this? Once you've done it once, then the next time that problem comes up, you have an answer. So lots of talking to each other, lots of partnership work is the only way we can make up for the fact that so many services have been cut. Gosh, my little runt over there.
Oh, well done, Joe. Is there any questions for Joe? No? I always love it when Joe comes along and sort of has a talk with us because, you know, like myself, Joe likes to talk as well, but she got people talking, asking questions, and that's always really good when we get people asking questions. So thank you, Joe. Sort of
Thank you.
oh, and
Oh,
Joe,
thank you. Yes,
yeah.
that pinged up. Thank you very much. Oh,
Caroline's got a
Caroline.
question.
Yeah, Joe. So, as you were talking, I was thinking about I can't get rid of my hand. That's annoying, isn't it? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I was thinking about I was talking to a surgery a while back, actually. It was a few months ago, and they told me about a case they'd had with a couple that were at their surgery, and the husband had gone into hospital and he'd been in hospital for a while, and then the hospital were trying to discharge him home. And his wife, who was also his carer, apparently had been kind of shouting into the wind for a long time about how she was really struggling to cope at home and in the caring role. I suppose it had been a bit of respite for her for him to go into hospital. But at discharge time, she just kind of said, well, if I couldn't cope before he went into hospital, I don't think I can cope when he comes home from hospital. And she literally packed some bags and took herself off at discharge time and said, well, there's no one at home. I don't know when I'm coming home. So he can't come home and you're going to need to make alternative arrangements for him. So how much, I mean, that seemed really extreme to me at the time. But then as I'm listening to you now, I'm thinking, well, maybe this is happening more and more. Do you hear about this sort of thing often?
Yes, we've had a couple of cases like that fairly recently. Okay, so it's outside our remit, but we obviously support the carer. So if the carer says, no, don't want to do this anymore, I'm not doing it anymore, that is their right. So this is where we would put them in for a carer's assessment, if possible, so that they can state that, and it goes on Mosaic on the social services CRM. And that is absolutely their right. You don't have to be a carer. So by putting it on Mosaic with a carer's assessment, that makes it sort of right. They've had that assessment. It then would fall to social services to look into, depending on whose name the house was in, if it was a partner or whatever. The most recent one we dealt with, the house was in the lady's name, and so he wasn't on the agreement. And so when she said, no, I'm not having him home, he was homeless. So that had to go back to social services, who would have to work with housing and find him temporary accommodation if they wanted to discharge him. So they had to keep him in hospital or send him to rehab long enough to have somewhere to send him, because the carer said, no, I'm not having him anymore, and his name isn't on the deeds, it's all under my name. So he didn't have a leg to stand on. So again, that has to go through social services to find him somewhere to go. We have had the discharge coordinators. Disco have said to us recently that it's getting to a point where actually it would be beneficial for them to have a housing officer on board, because then if somebody couldn't go home, they would have a route into emergency accommodation.
Okay.
We've got
So
one.
it's not
Thanks, Joe.
common, but it is
But
happening more.
you do see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Joe, we've got
Karen.
one more. Yeah, Karen.
Hi. In regards to the referrals that you brilliantly do for these patients that are being discharged. Do you notify the GPs of any discharges that you do, so it's not sort of duplicated our end? Because we don't have, well, I don't, our surgery doesn't have access to Mosaic, so we can't see if any referrals have already been done.
No, so what it would be is for Mosaic, that would only be through our carers assessment service. We have a different service for general. And that would be that referrals would be made direct generally. The signposting we can tell people, but the referrals go between carer support and the agency that we're referring them to. So no, there's probably, again, this is another communication thing, there's probably no way for a GP to know just what a carer has been referred to. It's a very good point. Very good. Yeah, more need for communication there.
Yeah, just thinking, obviously, from our perspective, well, from my perspective, if I'm sort of doing a discharge review, I might then refer them to social services as well, or occupational therapy, and it might have already been
we do
done.
get repeat referrals, so we might get a referral for somebody from an occupational therapist. We might get, the hospital might have referred them straight for a carers assessment or to Age UK, and so we sometimes have things coming in from different directions, but we look at, we look at their name and say, okay, we'll put all of that on their file, but we will note that, look, that 3 people have actually referred this person to carer support. So we just marry it up on our database that there's been great concern for this person, and that probably will speed things up a bit for them, because if 3 different agencies have all referred into carer support, we'd think, oh gosh, we'd better look at this one.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got one last question from Helen.
It was just going on for what Karen just said about not having access to Mosaic, or we don't either. I don't think any of the surgeries have direct access to Mosaic, but what we do have is the proactive care team, so the PCM MDT, who do have access to Mosaic. So obviously we deal very closely with them. So when we've got a complex patient or complex needs situation, quite often when we have our weekly huddles or whatever, we might mention a particular patient and they can tell us if they've had a referral to
partnership
Mosaic.
work, good communication. If something's going to help, knowing about somebody, and this is where we're very hot on, we get consent for everything. So if I'm going to, if I'm talking to a carer and they've got a concern about something, the first thing I do with every single sort of direction you're taking it in is say, do I have your consent to speak to them? And they say yes, and I record that, and then I will go to social services or proactive care or whoever on their behalf and say, right, were you aware that this carer is struggling? So this is where our sort of bit of liaison work will go on.
Okay.
It's a case of being quite determined, isn't it? It's, some people will say, okay, I've ticked a box, I've given them that information, fine. And then you'll get people like me who is a bit like a dog with a bone, and will say, I'm going to make damn sure everybody knows that this person is struggling with that. So everybody that can help at that moment, obviously not to take over their lives. So if somebody's in the hospital and they're saying, I've got this issue, my first question is, well, have you told someone about that? Have you spoken to the ward? Have you spoken to the OT, whoever it is? And if they say, oh no, I don't like to disturb them, I will say, do I have your consent? And I will go along, or I will send a message and say, this carer is struggling with this, can you address it with them? So sometimes it's just opening up that conversation that the carer needs to have with the hospital or what other agency that they need to speak to. Okay, thank you, Mike.
No,
you did say
thank
that was my last question.
No, it's been good. Thank you, Joe, as always. I really appreciate you coming along, and it's always really informative and good to have the conversations. So you're welcome to stay.
Thank you.
It's always good, sort of, as I say, to have you here. So I'm going to hand over to Caroline and Julia, who are going to present and talk about the wonderful work that's being done at the Dolphins practice. So I shall go back onto silent.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, Julia.
Better remember to unmute myself now.
Well, thank
Hi,
you very much
everybody.
for agreeing to be a practice spotlight for us today.
No problem.
Yeah, so we've got Julia Hunt, who's actually the social prescriber over at Dolphins Surgery. So before we get into it, Joe, Julia, do you just want to give us a little, because you're in a bit of a unique position, aren't you, in your role? So
Yeah.
just give us a little bit of a summary of
So,
your
yeah,
role in the surgery.
I am the social prescribing link worker for the Dolphins practice. I work for the Hayward Heath Central PCN, which is the Dolphins practice and Newton's practice. And I've been here about 3.5 years now, I'd say. Gosh, time flies. And during that time, we've had, we didn't have a care coordinator when I first started. We were using like the care coordinator hours with like some admin hours. And so we had admin staff doing, the discharges and things like that, but nobody specific. And then since I've been here, we've had 2 care coordinators start, but then neither of them stayed very long. It just didn't seem to like the role or something. We don't know why. So although I'm not a care coordinator, I have taken on the role. I do all of the care and support and things within social prescribing. So for people needing care or reaching out to us about care, that comes to me, and carer support comes to me. Any other roles, I also help out and do some of the cancer care reviews for the practice and things, all just as additional stuff that I do while I'm here. So yeah, it's kind of become anything with carer support, and I am the carer's lead for the practice, and it gives me, I enjoy it. So it's I had my own previous struggles with care and a very big caring role personally. So I think I've walked the walk. So I think providing that support makes it a little bit easier as well. So, and I think we've come to the conclusion that if we even do get a new care coordinator, as long as I'm here, I'm still going to continue doing this role within the practice. So
yeah, you've made it your own, haven't you, Julia?
Yeah, it's mine, and you're not taking it away from me now. So
yeah,
so
thanks, Julia. Yeah. So we'll jump straight in. I mean, we've got lots of things to talk about. So I'll just mention that we had our first contact as far as a baseline review goes. So I think most people on the call will know all about baseline reviews. So Julia and I did our very first baseline review in August 2024. And
we said, oh dear, we're not very good at the Dolphins practice. I'll be totally honest.
Yeah, I was thinking about how am I going to introduce that.
No,
we sort of identified
we
identified that there wasn't a lot of carer support going on at that time, was there? So it highlighted quite a few areas that we felt that we could support the surgery with, and thankfully you were really keen and really proactive. So yeah, I mean, what made you begin developing carer identification and support within the practice?
I think just like the first time we met, I don't know, did we have the care coordinator then or not? I'm not sure, but it was for me to support the carers, the care coordinator with it and things. And just, I mean, the initial shock, I think, was that we looked at the coding. I never knew about carer coding. And we looked at it and it was a disaster. Everyone was just coded as a carer, which means they work as a carer, not an informal carer. And it was all over the place. So that was a project in itself. Whenever I had a spare hour, it was going in, recoding, rechecking everybody. We sent out multiple text messages to people. Are you a carer? Do you still want to be registered? What we kind of, That was a big project, actually. I think it took me close to six to 8 weeks in total to get it all finished and sorted. But it was really nice then that we had a final number and we were able to do that. And also there was no carers board, no carers information. There was an odd flyer thrown around the practice here and there. So we were able to immediately order something, get something in place, and identify what we were going to offer and how we could support. So it got the ball rolling in the initial talks within the practice. So
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so since then, I mean, we identified all sorts of areas, and you've been a work in progress really for ever since, haven't you? Like every time we've checked in, there's been something else that has been actioned, or you know, something new to update. So could you just tell everybody just some of the steps that you've taken to improve your identification of carers at the surgery?
I think initially, once we figured out what we were going to do, well, once I figured out what I was going to do, I should say, and how we were going to try to put things in place, we did a lot of staff training. So luckily, shortly afterwards, we had like a protected learning time. So I exited a whole hour of time, did some of the carer support training, what we were going to offer, discussed coding. I'm a bit of a control freak sometimes, so I still don't allow anyone to code other than me. There are other people, in case I don't show up again, that can take it over. But now if anyone identifies a new carer, I just say, don't code, just let me know. And they send me a message and I do it so we can send out information and I know who's who and what we're doing. So I think it was like developing the offer for carers, starting that, training all the staff, the lovely training video, I can't remember what it's called now, but that we have all new staff onboarding now, watch the video. I make sure I go and check in with every new staff member that they have watched it as well, so that then they know carers, Julia, have the link all together. We put up a lovely big new notice board right in the downstairs. I make sure it's updated. I've printed things in bright colors, so it says carers lead, speak to Julia. It's got my name, it's got pictures, it's got all the supports, carer support information, and I make sure I update all the posters, keep it really relevant and vivid in reception. And then we didn't have a protocol or an offer within the practice. And Caroline, this was one, I think, multiple meetings. Where's your carers offer? Where's your carers protocol? Didn't really have anything put in place, but thankfully, because I work really closely with our PCN, with the social prescriber and the old care coordinator at the Newton's practice. She'd been in place, the care coordinator there was very experienced, very good. So I worked with them, kind of took their carers offer, took their protocol as a baseline, worked it all out, what we could offer, what I could offer within my role, and put the whole offer and protocol together. So I think without the baseline reviews and have you done your carers protocol, have you done this, it kept me, in the beginning, it was another thing to add in to a very busy workload. I mean, I think social prescribing, we, as I was getting started and learning my role as a social prescriber and adding all of this in, it was another thing to do, but now it's just part of the day-to-day, so it's a lot easier.
Yeah. So on the subject of the training, because you've added carer awareness training into your induction training for new staff, but it's also been included in the kind of regular professional development of everyone in the surgery, is it, or just patient-facing staff?
No, everybody. So
everybody does it. And that's the carer support training portal, which was kind of distributed around all the surgeries a couple of years ago now.
So I put that up on the big screen in our PLTs once a year, just for an add-on. Kind of sometimes even at the end, if people have done it recently, then you can step out away or whatever. But I think it's just, we don't always go through it fully. Here's the link, but let's just click through these important bits just as a reminder. So at one PLT every year, I do my social prescribing reminders of different things the other things that I support within the practice. But then the main part of that is the carer support. So I bring up the training, we have a brief overview, just so that people know that we do have a carers offer. We do offer as much support as we can, and that everyone knows. I mean, that everybody does know now. It's really nice. If someone says the word carer, it's just like, ping it to Julia, ping it to Julia. So it works out really well.
Yeah,
So,
great. Yeah, we're going to be having a look in a minute because we've got some slides that we're going to talk through. So actually
Yeah.
the carer protocol and carer offer is kind of combined, isn't it? So we're going to have a little look through that. So after all of this wonderful work that you've done, how many new carers have you identified since collaborating with us?
So when I first went in, I think we had 124, which I think is really low. I still think we're very low, and we're trying to identify more, but we had 124 carers, of which a lot of them were incorrectly coded, so it went down dramatically. But I'd say probably it was maybe around 100 were probably definitely identified as carers. Currently, actually, I looked this morning, and 2 days ago it was 161 identified carers, but this morning we have 163 identified carers at the practice. So I know I coded one, so I think somebody else might have coded, or I'm not sure. So we have now 163 identified, correctly coded carers at the practice. So within the I'd say last year, we've identified 40 new carers. So, and it's on our registration form. So new patients registering, are they a carer? We've got the regular NHS registration forms, but we also have our own, and we have increased a section on that, and that says we will be contacting you. And I have any new carers now that are identified, I have a letter and a package, and comes from me, so they know who to reach out to, and I send that out to every new carer as soon as we're identified.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so could you just talk us through some of the steps that you've taken to improve your actual carers support? So whether that just be at the surgery or in partnership with us as well.
Yeah, so we've done both, and I think within the surgery with carer support with Sussex and within our PCN. Within the surgery, I am extremely lucky that we have quite a good, strong leadership of a PPG, the Patient Participation Group, and they are really keen on carer support. They like the idea. So it started even before my baseline review. What got me a lot involved is in I think it was 2023, during Carers Week. They hosted a large event at the practice. Carer support were invited, carers health team, we had the leisure team, we had all sorts of people. We had an open day where I think it was most of the afternoon, might have been the whole day. A lot of people came. We had Mid Sussex Wellbeing come and do carer health checks, and we literally turned we're lucky we have a beautiful building, a big reception area. So we put out everything for carers to come in, pick up leaflets, have support, meet. So myself and we did it in collaboration with the Newton's practice. So their social prescriber and care coordinator also came over. We had like an open day for carers. And then in 2024, they hosted another event during that week where we had 2 different sessions, one with the Falls team and a Falls training, and one with Mid Sussex Wellbeing for health checks for carers, where we had one afternoon session, and then the next day we had a morning session, just to provide an open space, coffee and tea and support for carers. So that was all organised and ran by the PPG with our support, but they did most of the work, which was really nice. And then this last year, Penny and I, we tried during Carers Week to host something, kind of sprung on us a bit quickly this year. And there wasn't as much hype this year as previous years, I think. So we hosted a Carers Walk and tea and coffee and chat at Board Hill Gardens. So we invited, it was a first come, first served. Obviously, normally we run regular wellbeing walks at Board Hill once a month, but we made this one specifically for carers. So we just a walk and a chat where we focused on, we had leaflets with us, we had, links and support groups and any advice that we could offer during that time. And that was so we first come, first serve. We normally keep it under 20 people, but we did up to 40. And I think we had a fair few, I can't remember the numbers now. Penny would know, but she's not here. It was a really nice little event. So we plan to do something every week for that. And then recently we've hosted 2 of the energy hubs with Caroline, or Caroline has done 2 of the energy and wellbeing hubs along with the carers health team at the practice. My uptake wasn't as good as I'd hoped. I really thought we'd have a lot more people come.
Well, the first one was good, wasn't it?
Yeah,
the first
yeah.
one. Yeah,
the second one didn't have as many people.
Yeah.
But I didn't matter. The people that came found it extremely. I mean, the feedback from it has been fabulous. So from both the carers health team and from the energy project and the advice given. And I think that was really, really helpful. We're very lucky at the practice. We have a huge meeting room. I can access it and host anything and everything I want to at the practice. So really, really helpful. I thought those were really good.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, about carer numbers coming to events, because a lot of surgeries bring up the subject that, they put on an event, they'll invite lots of carers, and they just get a handful, if they're lucky, of carers coming along and kind of participating with it. So we're actually planning a practice spotlight, hopefully for the next Carer Lead Network meeting, that discusses barriers for attracting carers in for support that is offered for them at the surgery. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation that we have, because a lot of surgeries do bring that up as a bit of a problem.
People, if they need someone to sit with someone to attend something, they've got to use those people for their medical appointments, for their shopping, so they aren't able to come, which is we've looked at whether we could provide support or people can bring people with them. Again, it's a staffing issue, it's a safety issue, so it's very difficult sometimes, and people have to use those additional supports, or family or friends, for the times that they have to use them, not necessarily for something that would probably be more benefit for them in the long run. But tough. It's tough.
So again, it's all just a work in progress and things to think about, isn't it? So have you noticed can you tell us about any benefits or outcomes of all of these steps that you've put in the work that you've done? And if so, what are they?
Well, besides the personal benefits that I've got from it, and I do enjoy it, I think that just the huge increase in carer identification, and how you hear the word carer within the practice, and you didn't hear that 2 years ago or 3 years ago. The carer identification, reception team immensely. So I focus a lot on reception because they're the first face you see when you come into practice. We have a fabulous team, and they're always just eager to. I said people might not identify, but you need to ask. So they're eager to draw people into the conversations and say, well, are you a carer? We can offer some support. Let me put you in touch with Julia. That has really, I've heard it myself when I've been eavesdropping. On my door, leave it open. You can hear what reception is saying sometimes. So I just think patients find the fact that we're having the events, that we've got all the information there, that the staff are trained, everyone's trained within the practice to offer that support. I think that's just, it's a huge change.
And the numbers on the register, the numbers on your identification, numbers on your register is going up. It's all kind of moving in the right direction, isn't it? And then those people are being identified and supported.
I think when you see it now, so when you were talking about when hospital discharge summaries come in, And if something comes in and it says they've got a package of care and whatever, that would just have been filed in and nothing done with it. But now that gets a highlight and it gets sent to me, and then I can then, so there might be someone's come home with their wife, say a man's in hospital and he's come home with his wife. That wife wouldn't identify herself as a carer. She's just his wife taking care of him when he comes home. But they will ping that over to me now, and then I can call them and see and then code them. So we are identifying through a hospital discharge summary that maybe that person obviously now needs care and support at home. Who's doing it? Let's have a call and see and identify them ourselves just from reviewing a piece of paper. And that would never have happened before. So
yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good point. And you've brought that up. You've mentioned that before, that you use your so you mentioned that you also do the cancer reviews, and that's another way you identify quite a lot of carers through that as well, don't you?
Yeah. It's people don't, a lot of people don't think they're a carer, and they don't identify that at all. And it could be something very little, as we say, it could only be an hour a week, or we have a neighbour bringing someone regularly into the practice, and one day they were struggling with it a bit. They're not with our practice, but I said, but you're in a caring role for your neighbour. Have you, you can get some support with this. Have you identified as a carer with your GP practice? So you refer out to others as well. So it's all
that's
good.
great. Yeah, that's brilliant. Okay, so have you got any plans coming up for any other further support that you're going to put in place?
I love a plan. I love a little thing. So so our PPG, we're increasing it. We're really focusing on our PPG now. We want to within the practice look and see what else we can do. So they have just started and just sent out their first ever newsletter from the practice from a patient perspective. So every month, quarterly, they're going to be doing it. But we've met with them and provided some support. So we're addressing a different topic each time. So that they do some not negative, but so they're addressing like the fact of the do not attend appointments at the practice, and how, one person missing one appointment actually results in 4 appointment slots being wasted with the repeats and people missing out. So they were focusing on that in a little diagram. But every newsletter, they're putting a little blurb on it, or a little,
a little paragraph or something.
A little coloured bubble. Are you a carer? Make sure you let us know. We're here to support you. The practice would like to support all carers, so they're going to include that in all of their newsletters.
Brilliant.
Which I've requested, and they're really supportive of carers. So we don't have any events planned now currently, but we are ready to host anything or do anything that could come in.
Don't worry, Julia. I'll be knocking on your door next time
I'm ready. We will have you anytime you want to come, Caroline. I did plan a year ago to start like a carer coffee morning if people would want to and whatever. However, I'm reducing my hours, so I haven't done that because I don't want to start something and then not be able to finish it. So I used to work 4 days a week, but I am dropping to 3. So once I get into the 3 and see what time and availability I have, that would be a possibility. I'm probably working alongside, again, I work in collaboration a lot with the Newton's practice, which is really nice. So we could probably do it together maybe, because they have the care coordinator that's really eager to do those sort of things as well. And I have the space and the nicer space and the bigger rooms and the better furniture. So we'll do it together, and that's really nice. So maybe something like that going forward, just as a way to, I think, you don't know, a carer, one of the biggest supports for a carer is another carer, someone that understands what it feels like. So I always say lived experience is a huge support for others. So
thanks, Julia. Right, I'm just going to share my screen because I want to show the lovely we've got an example of the carers protocol that you've prepared. Let me know when you can see. Give me a shout
Yeah,
when you can see my
we can
screen.
see it.
Okay, so we've got a little PowerPoint here. Just, it's not very
Our
long.
lovely
It only takes a
dolphins.
few minutes. Can you just, so I've actually split this into two. I'll just show you. I've got two slides here. I mean, the actual carer offer is just one sheet of A4, isn't it? But I've separated it out into two slides. So this is the first half of your actual hard copy. So can you just talk us through this bit?
Yeah, so when someone is identified as a new carer, and I post this within the practice as well, but when someone's identified as a new carer, I send out a nice little introduction letter as to who I am, and then include the carer's offer and some little leaflets and flyers and of all the local little support groups and things around. Obviously, Carer Support West Sussex identification flyer, make sure people are registered, include a little registration form as well. So, you know, we're really trying to be a practice that supports well-being. If people are well and supported, their health is better, and it links in a circle. So you know, again, if you're caring for someone, anyone needs extra help. It does say as they grow older, but it could be caring for a child as well in a more role. So I'm just looking at it now. Contacts are spinning in my eyes. So we want to be aware of everyone. So it explains what a carer is. You may be giving, I think this is really important that it says it just could be giving financial support or helping someone once a week with their shopping or something. Anyone that has any long-term condition or is frail. It could be memory, dementia, mental health, child with special education needs or disabilities, or anyone with any learning disability. Oh, that's something else I do, and I forgot to talk about. I do the learning disability reviews for the practice with the nurse, and we're working really strongly to be what's called a thumbs up practice, which means that we are put anyone with a learning disability, we want to provide the best supports available. So when they come in for their annual reviews, the learning disabilities nurse does the medical part, but I do the social part, and part of that is to offer support to the carer that comes with the person. So then make sure that they are coded as a carer and know the carer's offer. So then we want to be able to ask someone that we can let people know of anything that we're having, any supports available. You know, during Carers Rights Day, during Carers Week, I send out, you know, some text messages, some support offers, just to remind people that we are here and what support we can offer. So, and obviously when someone registers as a carer, we send them the nice big information pack. I've even got special envelopes because the big A4 envelopes of the package don't fit all of the information in. So I've got expandable envelopes just for my carers package. So there we go.
Yeah, I really like the way you've laid it out, actually, because it's almost like the first half of your carer offer, and this is dotted around the waiting room and in different areas of the surgery, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this half of the offer is really about identification, and it's encouraging anyone that reads this, it's encouraging them to think, oh, well, that's me. I'm doing that, and I didn't even realize I was doing it, you know. So it's really focusing on identification. And then the next part of your offer is how, once you've identified that someone's a carer, the support that you're offering them. So you've got quite a bit going on, and it's all laid out here for people to see for themselves.
So I think it's important to let people know that we have a carers lead. So, and I know with all of the things we've done, I've got my little carers lead badge, which I would love to wait to get that. So we do have the carers lead at the practice, and that someone knows that there's someone that they can reach out to. I think, you know, getting a hold of people at a GP practice, especially with the new digital triage and all of that, can be very difficult. And I always say, but I don't do digital triage. I'm available. You can call if I'm with a patient or I'm out and about or I'm, you know, on the phone. They will send me a message. You can just call and ask for me for any carer support, and I will get back to you. So I think, you know, knowing that there's a carer's lead, who it is, having the information, it says the carer support information. We have the board there. anything new, anything that's coming up. We make sure it's on our board and also on the digi screen. We love, I don't think there was much last Carers Week, but I'm always asking for new digi screen flyers from Carer Support. We make sure they're always on there. Anything Carers Week, Carers Rights Day, we also update our Facebook page. We're always putting anything that I get, I send to our Facebook page manager, so they put that up. And the website has direct links, so you can register directly as a carer on our website as well. That took a while to get that on, but I did it. So
you did it, yeah, sure.
And then I think the other thing is to let people know about the carer awareness at the practice, to let patients know that I train everybody on carer awareness and that staff are all there to help. So
great. And then our last little slide is just some pretty little pictures. So we've got your carers notice board there. So that's the one that's in the waiting room, and that's the one that you update regularly. And then over on the right, we've got a picture of the because you've put in so much good work, you got a little acknowledgement of that from us. So you've got your little carer lead badge, and this is the sticker that we're distributing, window sticker.
That sticker is on the front doors as you come in, but and in the background of there is the reception desk on the right. And we had the lovely Perspex screens for COVID, and everything was covered, and you know, so patients coming in. We have just recently taken them down to make it more. 1 second. Oh, never mind. Sorry, they're sending me a message. When we took them down, there is a board literally right where the receptionist sits, and part of the Perspex is still there. And I like the fact that these are quite small. They're not like a big A4 leaflet, and they're in a little bubble. And that has had quite a bit of impact. So that's, I think, where 2 new carers came from in the last week, is I stuck one right there. So when people come to talk to the receptionist, the board is literally right next to them, and that little bubble is right there. So it's in within eye line. It's a, you know, it's not just a notice like, oh, it's another notice. It's a little bubble, and that has worked out really well. So I've stuck one right on reception, and I think that's going to be very helpful. So
strategic placement. Yes.
So
thanks so much, Julia. I'm gonna
I would say thank you to you, Caroline. You started it all with me and have been really, really helpful throughout it all. And I think the benefits will be, our carers will definitely benefit from everything that we have, and that we're very aware and willing to do anything that we can do. So without our lovely baseline review and the support, I don't think it would have happened. And now we're doing really well.
Big round of applause for you over at Dolphins.
And you, Caroline.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for all your help.
Mutual appreciation. Yeah. Oh, Julie's got a question for us.
Yeah.
Sorry, did it by accident.
Oh, okay. Any questions for Julia? We've got 2 minutes in the meeting. Any questions for Julia? I mean, if anyone has got any follow-up after the meeting or got any comments or questions, you can always let us know. Go on, Jo.
No, I'll just say how impressed I was with that. That is so good to know that's going on, Julia. And
you know, it's not difficult. Yeah, it's been really easy, and it's fun. We love hosting an event, and you know, I'm good at buying nice biscuits and making good coffee. So we're happy to. It's easy to host an event and do whatever we can, and it's. I think the practice in general, even as simple as not even about the patients and the carers, the practice in general, it's a better place to work. It's nicer for the staff knowing that we're all here to support in any way. The staff do better from it as well. All of it for the staff, knowing that we can offer all these things makes it a nicer place to work, and it's been great. They like the training, they like the support, they like, you know, sometimes when you've got all of the management issues, the problem patients, the nasty medical conditions, I think 565 documents currently waiting to be processed for the admin staff. And then they get to come and listen to some carer training and see the things that we do that are nice. It's nice for everyone to be involved. So
great. Thank you, Julia.
You're welcome. Thank you, Caroline. Sorry if I've rabbited too much.
No,
No, it's been
not
really
at
good.
all.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed today's session. It's just been great, sort of like to hear all the conversations sort of going. And I put a little note in the chat section just to say we have a quick feedback form in there. So thank you, Joe, for your presentation, and thank you, Julia and Caroline as well. That's really made it a really good. I feel quite positive and quite good after today's session. So just to let you know that the next session takes place on the 30th of April. We have Yvonne Walsh, who's our dementia specialist here at Carer Support. She's going to come and do a presentation about the support that she gives to carers of someone with dementia. And we've also got Sophie Skilton Green, who's from the Living Well programme. If you've not heard of the Living Well programme, it's a self-management programme for people with long-term conditions run by volunteer tutors. Many of them who have been on the course themselves, and it's people with long-term conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, asthma, arthritis, MS, depression, anxiety, and it's about sort of setting goals and positive thinking. So there's a lot of mindfulness sort of in that one. So it'd be quite interesting for that session. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'm sure you've got lots to be doing, but I'm not too sure. Is there still blue skies out there at the moment? Yeah. So if you do get to get some fresh air, go out there and just enjoy it. All right.
See you then.
next time.
Bye.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Thanks, Julia.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Should we leave?